Hey, my name is Neil Bakshi. I'm a certified life coach and Reiki energy healer. And I wanted to talk about something that's been reoccurring in some of my discussions and conversations over the past couple of weeks. And it's primarily around bringing in abundance into your life and the abundance that you know you deserve, and simultaneously breaking through patterns of fear that keep you trapped in believing that something isn't going to turn out the way you want it to, or something negative or bad is going to somehow manifest itself in your life if you put yourself in a certain situation. And I think the first step of this is really believing that you are ultimately worthy of whatever it is in your life that you want to have or feel. And a really great example of this is one of my good friends was on a bus, and they're traveling for a few weeks through Europe. And so they got on this very crowded bus in France. And given the uptick in COVID cases and coronavirus, naturally they felt a little uneasy because the bus was very full. It was about a 2.5 hour bus ride. And they were worried and concerned and nervous that they were going to somehow get COVID as a result of this. It was a fear that has been in their mind, and as a result, they wouldn't be able to continue on their journey of traveling through Europe and other continents. And so the first thing is believing that you are worthy of a certain outcome. So in this case, it was her believing that she was worthy of not getting COVID as she didn't want, instead of falling into the fear of the worst case scenario is going to happen for me. I'm going to get COVID. I'm not going to be able to continue my trip. And I think from there, the second step is really believing that the universe around us at large, this dynamic play that we're a part of, is looking out for our most benevolent and best interests at all times. And that in and of itself is it's a process to get to that point, especially when we are so preconditioned in our beliefs to believe that sometimes the world is out to get us. So many negative and terrible things are happening in our lives. But it really comes down to how can we shift our perspective on the circumstances and situations that happen in our daily life. And so that's why I think the second thing is that truly falling into a belief that the world around you at large, the universe, source, light, creation, God, whatever you want to call it, is really looking out for your most benevolent interest. And as a result of that, you will then be able to experience your greatest levels of growth. And the only way to start really falling into this belief and trust is to build a well of faith. And so, as I said earlier, it doesn't happen instantaneously. You can't go out tomorrow and say, I want to manifest $1 million, and then you see $1 million in your bank account the next day. Maybe that works for some, but for the vast majority of people, that's unlikely to happen. And so it's about building this well of faith slowly and slowly and slowly until you get to the point where you're able to believe, if I get on this bus, I know I'm going to be safe and I know I'm not going to get COVID. And the well of faith starts with small tasks. It starts with manifesting things in your health, starting to affirm for yourself or firmly believe that you're going to be healthy, that a certain situation is going to unfold for you, that you're going to meet certain people to help you expand your connections or relationships, that you're going to be able to find new sources of income or a new career path that you want, that you're going to go to the coffee shop and you're going to be able to walk in and get your coffee in and out and not delay yourself on the way to work. It starts with believing that the train times, if you're taking a train or a subway anywhere, that everything is going to flow seamlessly and all of your travel plans are going to be cost effective and efficient. And it's about really starting to build your well of faith by, I don't want to say pre-predicting outcomes, but kind of consciously with intention, putting out your desire for how you would like a specific outcome to go. That is in not just your best interest, but also simultaneously in the best interest of everyone else. Because at the end of the day, I truly believe that we are all just connected in this interwoven reality of life that we live in. And simultaneously, you talk about the golden rule of doing unto yourself as you'd want done unto others, and vice versa. And so that's really believing fundamentally that we are all part of this same inherent fabric of reality that somehow has independent threads that then weave ourselves through our connections around with the world around us through other people and other people that we meet in connections. And it's about showing up and trusting that you're ultimately worth it. And from there, it's about slowly, as you experience this growth and affirmation that what you want to believe is actually happening, you then start to develop this faith as you start to notice trends in your life of things that you wanted to happen in your life, these manifestations, so to speak, are actually coming to fruition. And there's an interesting point that I want to touch on here, which actually Dr. Joe Gallenberger, who's a clinical psychologist, PhD, that has worked with the Monroe Institute and has really been around for 3 decades in clinical psychology. He talks about this scale. And if you think about the scale as one side of the scale is doubt and disbelief, and the other side of the scale is belief and faith and trust that what's going to happen in your life is going to unfold. As human beings, we naturally have this tendency within us, call it the ego mind, call it negative self-patterning or negative belief systems that have been instilled in us, that things aren't necessarily going to go the way that we want them to go. And so if you think about this scale of faith versus disbelief and distrust and doubt, if you are at 50-50 in believing that something that you want in your life is going to happen for you, more likely than not, that 50% chance of disbelief is going to probably override any sense of trust or faith that something is going to work out in your best interest. As you slowly start to shift that perspective for yourself by building this well of faith, you'll start to see that your belief system in terms of what you think is possible for you in your life, this trust, this sense of self-trust or belief or faith in what you want to happen, will start to naturally elevate. And if you get to the point of maybe 70% trust and belief and even 30% doubt, where the scale is in the favor of the trust, you still may not see the results that you really want. But the paradox is that it's tough to get the egoic mind to be completely silent and to not believe that something bad or some negative outcome is going to unfold for us. But what I will say is that when you start to shift the scale to 90% belief and faith and trust that what you want to manifest or what you want to happen in your life is going to come to fruition, and 10% of the doubt and disbelief, then you're going to start to see true changes in your mindset, the way you approach the world, the way you see things. And so Dr. Gallenberger talks about this sort of well of faith. But that also brings me into a topic of discussion, which is around, well, let's say I get on this bus and I end up getting COVID, and I had the faith going in that I wasn't going to get COVID, and then I ended up walking out of it and getting COVID. Well, there's something that lucid dreaming teacher Charlie Morley talked about in terms of beneficial diseases, which is a dis-ease, which is in some way, shape, or form beneficial for your path of highest growth and highest wisdom. And it's interesting to think about this concept, but in the case of COVID, for example, which is so topical today, what happened to me earlier this year is in February of this year, I happened to get COVID. I had a number of travel plans planned for the summer of 2022. And what happened was I firmly believe that, I wasn't going to get COVID. I'm going to be completely safe. I wear masks everywhere. I wash my hands. I take care of myself. Don't expose myself to that. Well, I ended up getting it, but then my perspective on my life and why I got it then shifted. It shifted from trusting that this was a beneficial dis-ease for my body, because it would then allow me to travel later on in the year with reduced fear or anxiety as to if I was going to get COVID or trapped in some other country. And so that is the concept of beneficial disease. And Charlie Morley has his own example of he was running and he had plantar fasciitis and he wanted to heal himself of this plantar fasciitis, and so he asked to be healed of any non-beneficial disease. But sometimes these diseases are meant to break karmic cycles for us, either associated with past or present karmic instances that we've come across, or allow us to go through life in a more beneficial way, knowing that whatever happened for us was for our highest growth of wisdom, instead of viewing things as a lens of this terrible thing happened to me, I can't believe this terrible thing happened to me, and then cycling down and spiraling on that negative aspect, instead of changing the perspective of that to see it through a more positive or beneficial lens. And so what I want to just conclude is that if you truly fall into this scale of allowing yourself to cultivate this well of faith and allowing yourself to slowly, it doesn't happen instantaneously, it doesn't happen overnight, but allow yourself to slowly pick up and believe that what you want to happen in your life is happening for you. It's not happening against you. It's not happening to make your situation worse. But everything that you've done to this point that has led you here already has led you to a pretty substantial place, a place where you are generally happy, a place that things have progressed and evolved to allow you to have the life that you have now. And what I would challenge you to think about is as things happen in your life isn't predictable, life isn't easy, life is going to throw curveballs at you. It's gonna throw illness, it's gonna throw loss of loved ones, it's gonna throw tough times with jobs or incomes or finances or whatever specific instances that will pop up in your life along your path. I challenge you to pause for a moment when those things happen and view it through a lens of how can this benefit me? How can this help me to learn and grow on my path if I truly believe that what is happening for me is in my most benevolent outcome for my life and for my own highest wisdom? And so it starts with falling into a place of trust of yourself, a trust of the things around you that are happening, and a belief that whatever happens is for your highest wisdom ultimately. So this is just something I wanted to touch on in terms of starting to cultivate a well of faith, starting to cultivate a mindset of abundance and a belief in manifesting and bringing to reality the things that you actually want in your life. So I hope this was thought-provoking. If you have any questions, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let me know what you thought of this video, and thanks for tuning in.